Welcome to the Unleashed Potential Podcast, the number one Australian podcast brought to you by your hosts, Omar Hassan, Umar Elmi, Abdullah Haji, and myself, Abduljabar Jama. We discuss both meaningful and everyday topics, so sit back, relax, and enjoy our conversation as we share our experiences.
Assalamu alaikum everybody, and welcome back to another episode in the Unleashed Potential Podcast. As you know by now, my name is Omar Hassan, and this is...
I thought no more introductions.
No more introductions, but you never know, man. Sometimes we might get some new followers, and new listeners. So maybe the intro that we always put up with it anyway introduces us. But yeah.
So there's no need no more.
How you been, man?
I'm good, man. You look a little tired today.
I am, man. I haven't had my morning coffee. It's
you
crazy,
need one
man.
in this weather too.
Bro, man, you have no idea, man, how much your body needs it. Once you feed it a certain amount of caffeine and you withdraw it, man, you feel it.
It taxes you.
It does.
Yeah, it's done.
And even then, like, you feel like your day hasn't officially started yet because you just haven't had that little...
You're too addicted, man. You need to relax.
It's not...
I have a coffee a day,
but
I don't die over not having it. I cannot have it or I have it, but I prefer to have it.
I mean, look,
a cup in the morning.
I can get through the day. I can get through probably even the week without any coffee at all. No problem. But I enjoy it. And so when I don't have it, I feel like, there's something missing, that I haven't had something. Like, I haven't... Do you get what I mean? Like,
I reckon it's just because it's a part of your routine.
I think that's
what it is.
Yeah.
It's the same as like holidays, or when you're like not at school anymore and then the next day you just wake up at the same time, or if you've been working like extra hard and you have a day off and you forgot it's that day off, you just automatically wake up, you get into that routine, and you're that's all it is. And then caffeine's addictive, so add that on top of it and you're done.
Oh man. And this weather as well, add that on top.
This weather has been it's been chilling crazy, to the bone, like that wind. Like, and the weirdest part, I think the most annoying part is, it happens every year, by the way. It's like that springtime for us, but it's just
it's just like real up and up and down big time. Like on Friday, it was the most beautiful weather ever. Like it was 23, 24 degrees, nice and warm, no clouds in the sky whatsoever. And then the following day, it's just pouring rain and it's so windy and cold.
That's not the thing that gets me. The thing that gets me is like that Melbourne weather where it changes during the day, where you could go in, like you can leave the house to go to the stores, and it's all sunny. You go into your house, you do some chores, whatever it is, walk back out a couple hours later, and it's raining, and you're just like, what's going on?
Well, with Melbourne, unfortunately, they're not doing much going out of the house anyway, so...
Yeah, they're all right. They should be fine.
They're okay.
Inshallah.
Anyways, man, let's get stuck into the episode.
Let's do it.
So let's kick off the episode with what's on your radar, man. Well, what's been piquing your interest the past week or so?
Well, for me, it's just networking at work. Just because I work in a hospital, I don't do any medicine or anything like that, but you have connections to these people. You have a link to them. Like, you can see them, you can talk to them. And
kind of connections.
Well, I'll give you one, for example. My my workmate that works for me, he's been a large fella for his whole life. He's a big set fella. And just talking to a few of the doctors, he found out he could do a bariatric surgery on the stomach, like that, for weight loss and all that. And it's a pretty expensive surgery, and he got it for like dirt cheap, just because it's it's a private hospital. The guy, the doctor, pay.
I'll work on you for free.
Yeah, well, it wasn't free, but I'll work on you, and he did everything. Like, every day he comes into work, they'll have a chat. He'll prep him before the surgery, what to eat, what to do, all that sort of stuff. And I remember this was a little while back when I went to Sydney and came back, and I just remember him being like thick, like skinny. Mm-hmm. Like, he was my size, and he was like, I was like, what's going on? And he's like, yeah, man, like, I lost so much weight. And I was like, and he couldn't eat anything. Like, he'll literally come to work with a muesli bar and a banana. And that's his lunch. And he'll come in with like small little pastas and stuff like that. And sometimes he'll go, the pasta's so good, do you want the muesli? I can't finish them both. And it's literally like 100 grams of pasta or something like that, like something small.
Do they tie the stomach? Is that what it
is? There's a few different ways. I don't know exactly which one he had.
Like
I think it was it a sleeve or tied or something like that. And his appetite dropped, and then within like a month he's just like shredded weight after weight. And I remember asking him, because he told me not to tell the price and everything like that. But I asked him, like, how much does it normally cost? And he told me it's this much. And I'm like, how much did you pay for it? And he's like, It's about this. And I was like, man, like
that's a huge difference.
That's a huge difference. And I was like, oh, is he your mate? Like, oh, do you guys go to the pub afterwards? He goes, nah, I only see him at work and maybe once or twice a week. And so one time I figured out that he does that surgery. We started chatting or whatever it was. And then I was like, I really wish I could do it, but it's pretty expensive. He goes, oh, yeah, no, don't worry. I'll give you a discount. And he's like, and now like I've talked to like so many specialists.
So now all of a sudden you're rubbing shoulders and trying. Gary, my man, how you doing?
Not even that. I have one of the
all of a sudden
one of the administrators. She's gone. Her and one of the nurses are working in the mines now, getting paid 6 figures. And they're like, oh, yeah, if you need a job, go to this person to do recruiting. Go to this person if you need your tickets. It's a week course, but he'll do it in a couple of days. Speak to this person at this agency. Let him know my name. Go through here, go through that, and then you should be fine. If any problems, let me know. And I'm just like, yeah.
Wow.
And it's just like multiple people, different positions, stuff like that. And literally this week I was kind of like, oh, let's see. Because I know these people, and I'm just like, oh, let me ask. I'll never do it, like the bariatric surgery, that sort of stuff. There's certain stuff I was just like, let me ask and see if that door is open for me. So I went to certain nurses, certain doctors, certain things like that. And I just asked, hey, look, I'm trying to get into this. How do I do it? I even asked one of the doctors, hey, I'm trying to get into medicine. I want to be a doctor. How do I do it? And he goes, no, you see these unis? You don't want to do that because everyone's fighting for the positions. There's only this much positions. Go here, go. And he was literally giving me these details. He's like, yeah, within less than 10 years, you can be a fully qualified doctor. And I'm just like, really? 10 years? I thought it could. And he's like, no, less than that. 7, 8 years, you'd be done. And I'm just like, and he's like, go through here, go through there. And I was just like, I took a step back and I was like, it works. Like, it works that good. Just asking. Yeah. And so I was like, all right, we'll see what I can do. We'll see other connections, other places, and see what other doors open. And the thing is, it's not just like the doors that are available for me. Because like I said, I won't take some of them. But there might be some that a friend might want. Like, that's his position.
Yeah. So you'll still take on board that information.
So I'll be like, so if I know that these doors are there, I can guide or shepherd friends or people that I know that way, so they can get into what they want. So
that's interesting, man. Oh man, for me, man, I gotta be honest with you, man. I don't have anything on my radar. I've just been flat out. Why, that's that's probably the only. Yeah, my brain's just been flooded with coffee. Is that what it is?
Yeah. No, it's done.
No, just thinking it. Yeah, it's just thinking about it. Anyways, I've just been so busy that I haven't had a chance to sort of look up and try and notice things, and maybe that in itself can be what's on my radar is that sometimes everyone has moments in their lives when they just get so busy that they forget that life is a constant like it's a constant motion, that every moment that you're not paying attention to it, that's a moment that you're losing. And so I don't know, now looking back at the week that I had, I was like, man, I'm sure there were like pockets of small times when I could have just looked up and just enjoyed it and just had fun, or maybe just stepped out of it but it's just I was so overwhelmed with so much work, other commitments, family commitments, this podcast as well, and just so much things going on. But yeah, inshallah, hopefully next week or something I'll have something.
No, but it can be good sometimes, like just dipping out and not really seeing everything. Because, sometimes you're so focused on what you're doing. There's stuff that's going on around you that you don't realize. And sometimes there's a lot of hype, a lot of like initial reactions to things. But when you catch it a little bit later, you can see it for what it is. You're not stuck in that hype. You're not a prisoner of that moment.
Yeah.
So then now you kind of can go, oh, okay, that's all right. But sometimes you miss things, sometimes you don't. It's life,
That's right. It is life. And speaking about what else is a part of life, is today's topic. I think that everyone should consider, establishing at least some basic guidelines of, what is okay and what is not okay, in terms of how they are treated. I think that it's absolutely crucial that in any relationship, all right, or even just for yourself, that you establish some sort of limits as to how you want to be treated or how you don't want to be treated, or with certain things that are very important in your life, like what they can joke about, what they can't joke about, what your time, the amount of time that you can give, whatever it is, right? you have to have some sort of limit. So today's topic, I decided to raise today is about setting boundaries, and the importance of it, and how to actually go about setting up boundaries and sticking with them, and maybe even giving some, examples of what are some healthy, boundaries. I know that it's all subjective and that everybody has their own personal, lifestyles and their own personal, priorities and what's important to them and what's not, because we're all raised by our parents, and these values are passed down to us. And we have the community and the environment and, our religions as well sometimes affects the values that we have. So I know that everyone is different, but at least like at a high level, we can probably try and tackle this topic. So in saying that, well, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, when you think about boundaries, I think people do set up some boundaries. I think the biggest thing is they don't really reinforce the boundaries as much. Just give you an example, we banter and joke all the time when we meet each other, we rib each other, poke fun and stuff like that, and we know each other. I know certain people, I can go in a little harder than other people, or what jokes that aren't allowed. And with my friends, we're close enough, we've been together long enough where those boundaries are already set and we know it. But when you have a new friend or someone you're just meeting, sometimes you can see that they'll jump into that dynamic and they'll feel like, if my boundaries aren't where their boundaries are, then I won't fit in. You know what I mean? If my limit isn't as high as their limit is, if we're not on that same level, I won't fit in. So they try to like relax their boundaries, or wait, it would have been too far for them, which doesn't work, because once someone, has a certain boundary level and you pass it, it's only a matter of time before they snap, and it happens with like a lot of things. I've seen people putting up fake boundaries, which is a little bit too far. For example, if you need me, I'm gonna give you a hand, I'll help you out. You know what I mean? And you go, okay, cool, no worries. It's a big job. It's gonna be a while. Call me anytime. And you call them every day. Next thing you know, they're yelling at you on the third day. Well, bro, man, why are you calling me so early in the morning? Bro, you said help out whenever you want to. I need your hand right now. You know what I mean? Like, you should have set that boundary.
You set the limit yourself.
You should have set the limit. We're joking around. You say, hey, you couldn't say that. But I was like, you said that same thing to me. Like, where's your limit? Like, you set that limit. So reinforcing that limit is important, because the second you don't reinforce it and someone steps over that limit, they don't know that limit's there. So they'll keep going past your boundaries. So, you let something slide once, something slide twice, eventually you're going to get trampled on. You got to be like, hey, look, these are my boundaries. And the most important thing is the way you go about setting that boundaries. So if I'm in a scenario we're all laughing and joking and you feel kind of bad, sometimes you need to pull someone to the side, take him out, whatever that moment in, and go, hey, make sure they know this is a serious discussion. All right, look, I know you, I will forgive you for stepping over the boundaries because you weren't there, but I'm letting you know now, don't do that again. That's the boundary, that's the line. As long as you don't do that, we're cool. I ain't got no problems with it. The other thing is the people that don't set the boundaries and go off on someone, So for example, if you don't set a certain boundary and I go past that and now you're going off at me like it's my fault, I'm like, hey, look, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it, but I didn't mean to do it because I didn't know. So, like, you can get annoyed and angry and tell me that, and I'll be fine with it, but you don't push the boundaries now, because, now if you're yelling and cussing at me now after I didn't know the boundaries, now you're going past my boundaries. I'm going to let you know that straight away. And I've seen arguments. It's
that whole clash, isn't it? Yeah, sometimes.
I've seen it all happen, yeah.
Yeah, and I think what it is that, people don't communicate their boundaries up front, because, they assume that people are going to treat them the way they want to be treated, without actually telling them.
But because some people do. Some people are smart enough to know, like, if I make a joke and I can see it kind of hurts you a little bit, I'll mentally make a note. Hey, man, he didn't like that. I won't say it again. Or, for example, whatever it is, if I overstep the boundary and I can tell you're uncomfortable, even if you haven't said it, I'll be like, oh, okay, he doesn't like it. I'm gonna ease off.
You're not going to keep digging into it.
I'm not going to keep digging
into it. But the problem
is
that you initiated it. You started with it. Do you understand? Whereas some people, even that initial one, even though they might get angry, they might actually resent you for it, and they might not. It might break the relationship.
Yeah. It really depends on the person, because some people can understand. Some people are aware. Like I said, that's why you got to take them out the moment. Because if you're heated after going past that boundary, right? I'll know that you're heated in the moment. You're super emotional. I step past the boundary. I'm not going to make the situation worse. Like I said, normally I'll leave that situation, then come back and go, hey, look, I am sorry, but you should have set the boundaries. Now that I know it won't happen again, are we cool? you know. But if I then became a prisoner of the moment and then started yelling in that scenario, that's when things get out of control. But here's the thing, you don't know if a person will be able to do that or not. So being able to set that boundary off the bat and be serious about it, like, hey, this is it, don't do this, don't pass that, we're cool at the beginning. Because people they feel like if they set boundaries, people won't like him because they're limiting it, stuff like that. Like, you know, we just met and now you're telling me don't do this, don't do that. You know, I don't like it when this happens.
No, see, I have a different take on it. Because the thing is, like, you meet somebody, right? You don't know if you're going to have a proper relationship with this guy, if he's going to be, you know, a long-term friendship or not. It might just be a casual, you know, hey, how you going? Oh, yeah, I see you around, and that's it. You know, you don't really sit down and talk and share your life experiences or whatever, you know. So you don't know for a fact whether he's this kind of person or that kind of person enough for you to be able to dictate your boundaries off the bat. So I think what it is that you go along with the relationship, but the minute someone passes the boundary, don't let it slide.
Of course.
I think that's what it is. Communicate it up front the minute it happens and just say, listen, this is one of my boundaries. This is something that I do not tolerate. This is something that I don't find acceptable treatment for myself. I would appreciate that you don't do this again. We are fine from here. We're cool, but I just want you to understand that this is one of my limits, and this is not something that I easily sort of forgive, right? So the minute it happens, call it out and speak on it and be serious about it. But if you let it slide one time, and then 2 times and third, and you call it out on the 5th time, that person's going to call you up and say, what happened about the 3, 4, 5 times? Why are you getting mad over that?
They'll assume that you changed somehow.
You change, exactly. But you call it out from the get-go. I think that's where the communication is, as opposed to from the beginning of the relationship of
well, when I mean the beginning, I don't mean like straight away when you meet a person you don't know them. What I mean like beforehand is, for example, if we're going to do some event, whatever it is, like we went paintballing or we go go-karting, you know what it is. I know I can bump certain people. I know I shouldn't bump another person, you know what I mean? Some people just want to go cruise. Some people, you know, they'll rip your head off and they'll laugh about it afterwards, you know? But if I'm going into that situation now, I just met you, we're going go-karting, I go, hey, look, I'm not the type of person that bumps around, whatever it is. Like, you let him know ahead of time, right? So obviously, if I meet you the first day, I'm not going, hey, if we ever get into this scenario, don't do it. But like, if you know that there's a possibility of something happening, call it out as early as you can if you know it's happening. If not, then yes, in that moment it happens when you realize, oh, nah, he's gone past, pull him up on it on the first time.
And do it privately.
Because if you pull someone up in private, sometimes they'll take it fine. But if you pull them up in public, they feel like you're embarrassing me in front of everyone. Now I got to like retaliate, or I'm not going to take this.
Exactly.
You know, don't show me up in front of everyone. Who do you think you are? And it just gets messy, you know. Pull them to the side, have a little chat with them.
You know, one of the things that I always sort of wonder is, with friendships, I think it might be slightly easier as opposed to with family. Because with friends, right, we can choose who we interact with, okay? But that's not the case when it comes to family. You can't choose who you interact with. They are your family members. You live in that house. You are going to interact whether you like it or not, right? Unless you move out. And even then, when you move out, you still got parents, you still got siblings that are, you know, that Islamically, you have to maintain that tie of kinship, right? So I feel like that it's a lot harder to establish. I feel like that it's a lot more important to establish those boundaries early on when it comes to your family, as opposed to like with your friends as much.
But I think that comes into the parents, because if you got younger kids and you see them arguing and, you know, whatever it is, you as a parent should be the ones teaching them how to set up boundaries, how to set up, you know, things like that. You know what I mean? For example, if you have a son and a daughter and they've been sleeping in the same room for a while and, you know, now the daughter's getting older and you got to separate them, like, you got to learn how to set those boundaries. Because if you're just going, hey, well, you know, you should have, because you got to teach the kids how to do things. So you can't expect the kids to know how to
understand the wisdom behind things.
So you got to be able to teach them the boundaries, and also yourself, you know, are you setting boundaries as a parent and reinforcing them? And you know, because if you're not and you're stepping over boundaries and you're telling your kids, hey, look, that's your room, whatever it is, I'll knock or whatever it is, and you just keep barging in the door, what you expect the kids to do the same, you know what I mean? So
absolutely.
With your children, you should be able to, now if you're a little older, if you're like in a teenage house, you know, whatever it is, you should be smart enough at that point to be able to set boundaries. And if not, well, you should be able. You're not communicating with your siblings. Then you should actually look into, rather than setting boundaries, making a connection. Because you're not going to set, making connection with your siblings. If you don't talk to your brother, if you don't, hang out or whatever it is, you don't have to do it all the time. But if you don't have that connection, make that connection first. Because it's hard to set because your boundaries are always limited like a wall if you dislike someone. So if me and you aren't cool, it's this is where the line is. You stay on that side of the house, I stay on this side of the house, right? But if me and you are friend and cool, we're setting boundaries so we can both move forward and enjoy our relationship and have fun. You know what I mean?
But with family members, I'm telling you, it's so hard, especially when it comes to parents, for example. I'm sure there are parents out there that have, children whom they unintentionally verbally abuse, right? They might not do it like to hurt the child, but they do it because maybe that's the way they were raised. That one of the ways that you sort of discipline the child is that you verbally abuse them, or you might physically abuse them. Who knows? But now I think it's a lot less. But in saying that, what I'm saying is, those children, it's very hard for them to sort of rise up to their parents and say to them, look, do not, treat me like this. I do not feel, I don't feel that this is right the way you treat me, or this or that, simply because they have to obey their parents, right? And that's where the line gets blurry. Yes, you obey your parents. Yes, you obey every word they ask you, that they say of you. Yes, you are supposed to bear it, but that's not supposed to be like, because you are a human being and you have the right to have your boundaries respected, even when it comes to your family, right? So the right to be verbally treated, treated respectfully, and to be treated in a way that any decent human being deserves to be treated. Whether it's coming from your parents, whether it's coming from your siblings, you deserve that right, as a human being. So no matter how many times you have to communicate it, I think there should always be a way for you as a child to be able to communicate to the parent.
Yeah, just try saying it in different ways. Try telling them in different scenarios, maybe in the morning or when they're happy. You know what I mean? Maybe talk to your auntie or or your uncle, whatever it is, and then tell them, and then have them mediate, or your grandparents. You know what I mean? It's not going to be easy, like you said, and it's definitely not easy. But it doesn't mean don't try. It doesn't mean don't stop. Doesn't mean like don't keep communicating and talking to your parents or trying to set up those boundaries. Also, I would say if sometimes it is the parents and then they're a bit stubborn and they, you gotta obey what I say. Sometimes the child is like, hey, respect my boundaries, but the child is, running around, running amok and stuff like that. And it's like, hey, look, make sure your parents believe in you and know that you would uphold that side of the bargain, right? So, for example, I used to go out in the evenings and stuff like that, come back home midnight, whatever it is, and I was cool with my parents. And the reason why I was cool with my parents was because the first few times I did it, my parents knew I was going. They'll either drop me off, they'll pick me up, they'll call me, they'll call my friends that I'm with. So it's a two-way
street.
Yeah,
you
all that sort of
their
stuff.
Boundaries, and they've given you.
But then after all, what I'm saying is for the youngins, if you're not respecting your parents' boundaries, you're not gonna get their respect. But for me, I respected the parents' boundaries. I would always call, to the point where there was at one point I remember my mom stopped calling me and asking me where I am. So I would call my mom like, hey, mom, is everything okay? You haven't called me today.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I just know that you're with your friends.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that was first. I got surprised because my mom wasn't calling me. And then, but then after that, I realized, oh, snap, like she's cool with it.
Yeah.
Like she knows that I'm, what I'm doing. And she understands.
You don't have to report in.
No, I don't, because she trusts me at that point. So then those boundaries I can set. And sometimes boundaries change. Your parents will set a boundary because they don't think you're good enough or what they see. And when you prove them wrong, then they'll start shifting those boundaries. You know what I mean? Oh, you're not allowed to go out after Maghrib. You know what I mean? But if you don't argue, you come back, you're doing everything great. Your friends are friends.
You can go out tonight.
And then it's like, it won't be after Maghrib, maybe an hour or two after Maghrib. And then eventually it'll be like, you know what I mean? So respect your parents as well. If you do know that it's their side coming from, you're doing all the right things, don't be stubborn. Don't get angry. Just find another way of doing it. That's life. You know what I mean? That's the hand you're dealt with. Those are your parents. You got to respect them.
Look, absolutely. To my point, it wasn't to say that, disrespect your parents. That's not what I'm saying.
I get you.
I understand that it is a two-way street, that you need to respect your parents, and that in turn they also need to respect you. And that's what I was trying to communicate, that it's not just a one-way street.
Yeah.
And that it's not that I respect you, therefore you have to respect me. No, you respect them because it's their right. And they respect you because it's your right, and whether they live up to that right or not, you still have to own up to you still have to respect them because it's their right. You don't take away that right simply because they've taken away yours. You still have an obligation to uphold that, so respect them, but then you also have the right to demand that from them, from your parents, that they respect you like a decent human being. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to question them on the day of judgment. And He's going to question you and say, okay, so how did you try and alleviate the situation as a child? Obviously, I'm not talking about, when I say a child, I do not mean anyone under the age of 18 years old or anybody with a sound, a less than sound intellect, A 6-year-old is not going to be able to say these things. A 15-year-old might be, in a position not to be able to speak to their parents like that. But, a 20-year-old, I think 20-year-old who's gone through enough in life to be able to say, what, I this is not right. I do not deserve to be treated like this. So you might be in a position to be able to speak up, and in turn, even if you speak up and you've got younger siblings, who knows the overflowing effect that it might have, the positivity, But yeah, so that's that. So I want to ask, what do you consider to be healthy boundaries?
I think healthy boundaries, well, like you said, it's about respect. Sometimes there's responsibilities involved. So for example, your salah is your responsibility. You have to do it. So if you're at work and you just got a job, you got to make sure you set that boundary early. You know what I mean? And sometimes like you got to set that boundary early. Like, hey, look, I got to pray. I got to do this. And that's healthy because that's what you got to do. Sometimes some people set boundaries to get what they want. You know what I mean? Like, it's a false boundary. And those aren't helpful. For example, don't call me, text me. You know what I mean? Some people say that boundary because I want to know what you want from me before I reply to you. I don't want to have a direct conversation. You tell me what you want. I'll take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, figure it out, and then I'll let you know. That's not a healthy boundary, because in that friendship, one person's deciding when things are happening all the time. It's when he's free, it's when he's available, when he's, it's not a healthy boundary. And boundaries, like you said, is a two-way street. So the second you set up a boundary and that person is either abusing that boundary or shifting it around or something like that, you got to put up a different, like a wall. A wall's got to come up, and you got to go, there's got to be some consequences. Okay, look, you overstepped the line once. Hey, I'm warning you. I'll let you know before. Don't do it again. You did it twice. This is gonna happen. Because if not, they're just gonna keep going and going and going and going. You know what I mean? So for example, if someone has a nickname for you and you don't like it, and you go, hey, look, this is my boundary. Don't call me that. And they go, oh yeah, whatever. And they call you the next day and the next day. Eventually, you gotta either not be friends with that person or do something about it. If you don't, and the boundaries are pretty much just a fake wall, then it's useless and it's unhealthy. And also you gotta set boundaries knowing the person as well, not just for you, if I can sum it down in a sense. So what's the best for us to make sure that we're not fighting or arguing or whatever it is, and we can be cool. And so, okay, here are the boundaries. If there's no boundaries that we can set, then hey man, look, you do you, I do me. You know what I mean? I don't hate the person for it, just know he's not that person that could be a friend, or you're not compatible. Say Assalamu alaikum and walk off. I think a lot of people, they will try to set boundaries, and there might be something they enjoy. The person's like a good guy. They might play soccer all the time and they're good as a team. One area that they're good at and everything else is false, and they try to fix and make everything work like that one area, and it doesn't work. And then now they're beefing and they hate each other when they could have just went, hey, look, we just play soccer together, and the rest of it, here's our boundaries, walk away. Or if it will never work out, hey man, sorry, I can't play soccer with you, I'm going to go to another oval.
That's it.
Knowing you as a person and knowing the other person, how you deal with it, that's how you set the boundaries.
I agree with you. And in fact, I think you touched on two of them very lightly. One, the jokes, the name calling. And unfortunately, Somalis are actually very well known for this. They're renowned, they're world famous for this. I remember in high school, for example, there was somebody that I'm not gonna say the name here, but there was somebody that would come up with such flavorful names, for these people. And I swear, man, like some of them will actually make you laugh, you know. But
you're not gonna name it. You thought about saying it out loud, and you're like, nah.
I'm even battling it right now. Inside. I'm like,
you know the worst part about it is like the really good ones. If I say it, I know everyone's gonna know who it is, and I don't want that. I don't want people like hitting that person up and stuff like that. So it's like, nah, you gotta let it slide.
Yeah,
you know.
Not even that. Like the other one you touched on was the time issue. About, only one person being able to dictate when they can do things, or putting your hand up and saying, yeah, I'm free anytime, and not actually. You need to know yourself how much time you have available to be able to contribute to whatever it is, right? So knowing how much time you can contribute is a boundary that you need to set for yourself, because everybody works on time. Everybody is raised and governed by time, right? So you need to understand exactly how much time you have available before putting your hand up and saying, and then complaining later, like it doesn't work, right? The other thing is the, like your salah, how you said, and your deen. And the crucial part of where it plays is when it comes to your work.
Yeah.
At the workplace, sometimes when you're in the interview, you just want to get that job.
If you're desperate, sometimes you just say what you gotta say.
And the job, you might be in a position to, after you get the job, to have a really relaxed manager that would be like, yeah, you know what, no worries, we can accommodate this, this, you taking the 1 hour lunch break or whatever, or you taking additional time just to go and pray, or Jum'ah Salah, or whatever it is. But in some instances you don't. And the only way you can set those boundaries is set them up early in the interviews, So know yourself, get a taste for the manager that you might be working with or that's interviewing you, to sort of suss out and say, you know what, listen, my prayer is very important to me, and I know that, and this line of work is not going to affect my prayer, and neither is my prayer going to affect this line of work, because what's going to happen is I'm either going to put in additional time to make up for the time that I lost, or I'm going to start early, or I'm going to start, stay a little bit later. Whatever it is, I can work, rejig my schedule so that, it can fit within that, because that's a boundary. Missing your salah is a boundary. Even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, do not transgress the bounds. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set limits, has set bounds for us as human beings. And even then, we are not allowed to transgress the bounds. So, we as human beings, we need to set additional limits on ourselves when it comes to our time, when it comes to the, who and what we can joke about or accept as jokes about. When it came to the Prophet ﷺ, even in the Quran, it mentions that, if you hear them mock the verses of Allah, or if you hear them mock this, do not sit with them. That's a boundary that He had to set. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet ﷺ, do not sit with them. That's a boundary. Even the Sahaba, they would not accept jokes about the Prophet ﷺ. In their company, they would not accept it, and even outside of their company, they would not accept it, because that's a boundary they set for themselves. So you have to sort of look at yourself. You have to reassess, and this is why I say, like self-assessment is king, is prime. It's the most important thing, because when you assess yourself, when you know who you are as a person, man, you unlock so many different facets of your life that you can conquer and become so successful. If you know for a fact that the reason why you are being treated like this is because you have not communicated, or you don't know what your boundaries are until it happens to you, then you need to reassess yourself. You need to know what's your priority. What's an acceptable amount of treatment that you will accept from others, from foreigners, from your family, from your friends.
How you figure out where the boundaries are. If you haven't put yourself in certain scenarios, you know what I mean? Like, you don't know.
No, but okay. So
I'm talking about like I'm talking about with the reassessment. You know, so some people might go, I know who I am, I know what my boundaries are, but you only know that your boundaries in things that you've seen or gone through. You don't know about your boundaries in things you haven't done. Or you haven't gone, you know what I mean? So, for example, if no one ever called you a nickname because you were like in a certain school and you were like the popular kid and everyone liked you and everything's fine, you don't have any boundaries. Then you move, you go somewhere else, and now you're getting picked on and called upon and stuff like that, or people are giving you nicknames and joking around, and you got to be able to sit back, reassess what's going on,
and say, why is it bothering me so much?
Why is it bothering me? When my old school, when other people had nicknames, I would laugh. I found it fun. Why am I not finding it fun now? You know what I mean? Also with the other thing with Salah, especially with the interview, is understand that you setting that boundary allows you to understand where you're working in or what type of work environment you're going in. For example, if you tell your boss and you know your work can accommodate your Salah, and you know that for a fact, and you go to your boss and you go, okay, cool, look, I got the Salah, and here's how I'm going to work around it. Here's how I'm going to fill in the gaps when I have to pray, and everything is fine. If that boss comes up to you and goes, oh no, it's perfect, here we can do it this way, and he's setting up boundaries and working around your boundaries, then you can know this workplace I'm going into is a good place because they're willing to accommodate. They're willing to find boundaries so we can.
They respect your boundaries.
Yeah. He's pretty much saying respect mine, I respect yours. Yeah. But if you go into a place where he's going, don't do it, or whatever, every second Friday, and like he's trying to figure out, you go, think about it, right? He's doing that now before you even got into the job, before you even sign that contract,
Imagine when you have to spend some family time,
your daughter's
trying to take annual leave,
whatever it is, think about what's going to happen. Or Eid comes, forget about Salah, where you know what times it is. Eid comes and you go, hey, I don't know if I have to take this Thursday, Friday, or Saturday off, but and he's looking at you like, hell no.
Or Ramadan comes and you need to break your fast.
So setting those boundaries don't think of it as a thing where you feel ashamed to, or it's a negative thing on you. Just think of a way of probing where you're going into, and figuring out where you're going into is accommodating to you. And if it isn't, move along or jump in just for the cash and a little bit of experience. And
tough it out,
sometimes you do that, Sometimes, you go, Fridays, we'll see if I can take the Friday off. And then, you get the job while you're looking for other jobs. You're taking Friday off anyways. Yeah.
The hardest part of actually creating boundaries is actually sticking to them. Because I find a lot of people can come up with like a list of all the different things that they want other people to treat them like, Don't disrespect me. Don't mock my parents. Don't touch when it comes to my religion. Don't come and attack that. Don't talk about me in a negative sense. Don't mention me when I'm not there. All of these different boundaries that they might set for themselves. But when it comes to them actually doing it, now you got to come and actually, qualify that boundary and actually stick with it.
Oh, yeah.
And how you stick with it is sometimes the most important. Like
you tell your boss you got Salah and prayer. I got to take this time to pray. And some days you're not praying and he sees you're not even taking that time off.
Exactly.
It's a problem.
He's like, so the boundary is only for me and it's not for you.
Whenever you want to. That's what I meant by boundaries that aren't
absolutely, correct, Or like you set the boundary where you say, listen, I'm not free. Or I'm free, and then it doesn't actually, it doesn't transpire that you're actually free. And you say to this person, listen, man, let's do it next week. Next week I'm free. And he's available, and you just keep doing that. Now you haven't set the boundary that, whatever I say, if you make an agreement with me, I'm gonna fulfill it. I'm gonna stick to it. My word is basically my word, right? But then this person does the same thing to you, and he does. Every week he's telling you, no, I'm free next Saturday. And you follow up next Saturday and he's not free. And then what happens? You're going to be like, listen, man, I don't tolerate people disrespecting my time, wasting my time and telling me every week because I have to cancel plans just to accommodate you to be able to, be free on that following week. And then all of a sudden, every single Saturday, you're telling me that, you're not free like a day before. I don't respect that. But you yourself are doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to practice what you preach.
Exactly. Practice what you preach and stick to what you say as well, So if you say for a fact that this is my boundary, stick to it. But I think the most important message is that you as a human being deserve to be treated with a certain level of respect, that any other human being receives, right? If you treat someone else with respect, you deserve to be treated with respect as well. Because this is your God-given right,
exactly.
And you can't choose who you interact with. when it comes to your family and when it comes to your, your work. So you have to be very, very strong and firm when it comes to your, your boundaries, especially if it shocks you in your core, if it disrupts you, if it bothers you so much that it affects you.
If you don't uphold that boundaries, it chips away at you.
It does.
It will chip away at you. Like, for example, if you tell someone you gotta be this, you can't say this to me. For example, if I react every time and I have this pain in my heart every time you say something or do something, and I tell you off for it and you keep doing it and I keep letting it slide, eventually it's gonna be water off my back. Oh, it's just so and so. And then without you realizing that you're moving away from the moral that you set. The reason why you set that boundary is for a certain belief that you had. Now you're moving away from that belief. Because if I believe my time is important and I tell you my time is important, but I don't respect my time or whatever it is, or I don't pull you up from it, I'm slowly going to not respect my time. You know what I mean? For example, if you always rock up late, now I start rocking up late because you start rocking up late, even though I set that boundaries. Now you're just someone that ends up always being late. You know what I mean? But the other way around, setting up boundaries can actually help other people. For example, if I tell you, this is the time, right? We got to rock up. And I rock up that time and you don't show up. The next time, I'll let it slide. But after that, I tell you off. I rock up, I'm gone. For example, I'm going to pick you up at your house. We're going out. You know what I mean? And I rock up to the house and you say 10 minutes. First time, okay. We're late now, 10 minutes, all right? Don't ever do that again. I'll tell you off. Second time I rock at the house, you got 2 minutes. Otherwise, I'm driving off. If I drive off, the best believe the next time I come to your house next week, you're at that door. You're at that door.
Of course. You gotta of course, yeah. It's whether you let them influence you or you help influence them for the better.
And if you realize that it's not working out and you're both headbutting, just move on. Don't fight. Just move on,
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's it.
That's it, man. So set your boundaries.
I'm setting it now. This episode's done.
It's done.
No
That's
more.
the limit.
Yeah. You need your coffee.
I do need my coffee, man. All right. Khalas, assalamu alaikum, and inshallah tune in next week.